Hi everyone, my name is William Parker and I specialize in adaptive music strategies. And today I want to talk to you about motor skills in the piano. So before we begin, let's go ahead and take a real quick look at our hand. Look at your hand. Move your fingers around. Now look at your forearm. When you move your hand, the muscles in your forearm also move. They're different when you move your hand from the center in a raking motion, or when you put two fingers together as a pincer motion. They also react differently when you isolate each finger individually. Did you know that piano is a really good activity to help with motor skills? In this video, we're going to see how the motor skills work, and we're going to talk about how it could be useful in an adaptive music setting. All right, let's go. As you can see right here, I have a piano. Piano is a great instrument to use for adaptive music. When we put our hand down on the piano, we're automatically going to try to isolate our fingers. We can also do things where we can use sets of fingers at different times. But this could be really difficult for someone who might have a low motor skill. Some of my students who are in adaptive music can only do this with their hand. They're not used to isolating their fingers or doing a pincer motion. So you might see piano more like this. Doesn't sound very pretty, does it? But with support, you can actually help isolate each finger to play a note by itself. The first thing I would do with a student is to actually take their hand and help them by closing their hand, starting with their thumb. Have them play notes with just their thumb. If they can't do it by themselves, you can hold onto their hand to keep that fist shape while also keeping the thumb out. Eventually, you'll remove the support and the student will be able to play whatever they need to play using their thumb. Then we'd go on to the next one, doing the same thing for the pointer finger. And so on. And so on, and so on. What we're doing is building the memory and the muscle to use one finger at a time. Next, we'll use our strong fingers. We call it number 2 and number 3 when you play piano, or your pointer and middle finger. Try to have the student make a V shape with their fingers. Put the number 2 finger on one note, skip a white key, and then put the number 3 finger on. In this case, I used C and E just because they sound nice together. Try to get the student to move their fingers back and forth. You might need to start by helping the student by rocking their hand one direction and the other, holding on to it to give their muscles a chance to know what you're asking them to do. As they need less support, you'll take your hand away, and eventually, your student will start doing the 1 and 2. As you continue, you'll be able to help the student use all of their fingers to play one note at a time. Now, you see what the goal is, so why is this skill so helpful? Well, let's take a look at our hand, like I said before. When you look at your hand, what do you notice? I'm moving my fingers. What do you see? I see movement in the palm part of my hand. See how the thumb has a huge amount of muscles to help it move in more directions? And then the top hand, fingers at the top, are pointer, middle, ring, and pinky. They don't necessarily have as much motion, but they also don't have as much muscle. We see that the hand can close, open and close, kind of like a clamshell. And as I move my hand, you can see the movement of the muscles in my forearm. All of this movement is considered fine motor, right? A simple motor skill would be opening and closing the hand, waving. But isolating the fingers and using all of these complex muscles takes time. Students with low motor skills who have a hard time holding onto a fork, or writing with a pencil, or even just going like this with the top part of their hand without closing their whole hand, really benefit from piano because they are trained to move one finger at a time. Try this. Put your hand in front of you. Let's see if you can access all of the muscle from your forearm into your hand. Let's start by just waving your hand back and forth. You're using the hinge in your wrist and really working your forearm muscle. Now let's just move our thumb back and forth. You can already see muscle moving in the forearm by the wrist while we move the thumb. Now, let's close our hand. Again, most of that muscle is down in my forearm. What if I just do this with my fingers? Now you're seeing the muscle retract in my wrist because I'm really using those muscle groups. As we isolate each finger, we're really building up the muscle in the hand. Now, for a student who's in adaptive music, the sound you get from a piano I accidentally moved my hand. Let's try it again. Is another type of stimuli. It almost rewards you for using your hand the right way. If I push down, I get a nice sound. If I barely push, I don't really get a sound. So what's nice about the piano is it reinforces the idea that we want that movement in the hand by giving us a nice sound when we play. So, some ways you can support your students while they learn piano. Again, holding onto the wrist area and then helping point out fingers at a time is one way. You could put your hand on top of your student's hand and put slight pressure on the tips of their fingers to know which ones to move. In a video later on, I'll talk about doing hand-underhand, where we use the reflex muscles to try to use the fingers, reflex muscles to get the fingers, to isolate. All right, we're almost done. Let's wrap up. So as you can see, by playing the piano, you're really working on that isolated finger. You're working on using complex muscle groups to do an activity that gives an automatic stimuli that kind of reinforces the idea that we want students to play one finger at a time. Multi-stimuli activities help build muscle and memory much faster because the student is more interested in doing it. I mean, think about it. What's more fun, playing a piano with your hands or tapping your finger on a desk? Tapping your finger on a desk gives you a sound, but if you hit the piano, that gives you a much nicer, more melodious type of sound. Well, I hope this helps a little bit with the idea of using piano for adaptive music and how it works with your motor function. Have a great day and stay tuned for more adaptive music strategies, techniques, and tips. Have a great day.